Ava, it is so great to talk
Ben,
movies.
stop. Let me geek out for a second. This is great. I'm on TCM.
Acclaimed filmmaker Ava DuVernay joins Ben Mankiewicz to share the brilliant stars, bold filmmakers,
All of these pieces are part of a really beautiful tapestry.
and awe-inspiring stories of our shared human experience.
If you say you love movies, you gotta see it.
The Essentials with Ava DuVernay, hosted by Ben Mankiewicz, beginning Saturday, May 4th at 8 p.m. on TCM.
Just one of the an extraordinary scene to me.
Yeah.
When they're going into the club, and it starts with just the people on the street that we don't know, and you watch all of these gorgeous, talented black actors and dancers, and they're doing this routine where they're kind of picking each other up and pairing up and going inside. And I've watched that over and over many times. And then there's a cut and you're on the other side of the couple that takes you inside, and they go onto the dance floor, and that is a one shot into Duke Ellington at the piano. And I just think, who are they? Who are they and what happened to them after this? Because there were no more films for them to make, and yet they're so talented and so full of life. And if you really look at all of the faces in that crowd, everyone's in it. I work with background actors. Don't look too closely at what they're doing, okay? It just look, hopefully just stay. I've taken VFX to move someone out who was like, smoking on the side. Everyone's engaged, so happy to be in the movie, so present. I always smile when I watch that shot, and it's a special moment because it feels celebratory, even though we know it's fleeting. Epic in nature and tapping into something that I care deeply about, which is social justice narratives. Not knowing at the time that would be most of what I do these days. Really telling stories that get to the heart of us and the heart not only of what's great about us, but what's wrong with us. And by holding up a mirror to those problems and to those challenges, believing that there's an opportunity to heal and change. And so this film is really formative for me in that way. I left thinking, and not just thinking about it in that moment, but continuing to think about what I'd learned about this time in history.
Julie Dash said after seeing your second feature film, Middle of Nowhere, which is a wonderful film, you won the Best Director award at Sundance Film Festival for it. Julie Dash said of Middle of Nowhere, it's like the second coming of Kathleen Collins.
That makes me emotional every time I hear it. And, that's to have Julie Dash say that and evoke the memory and the work of Kathleen Collins and me in the same sentence is something that's deeply meaningful to me. And so, even as I kind of at this time in my career, having had, very independent films made for $50,000, $200,000, then I make Selma, then I make Wrinkle in Time, and I do TV stuff. And I'm embarking on what will be the next film. I'm drawn to my earlier work, as I'm drawn to Kathleen Collins' work, the intimate story, the smaller story, I think there's something about being able to play with the big tools and toys.
Sure.
We all should have it if we want it. And I got it, and I can have it if I want it. But gosh, I long for the stories like Losing Ground, where you're just watching people be and being able to peel back the layers of our humanity, what is specific, what is singular about us, and share that. And so, anyway, that quote means a lot to me. On the day that they stepped foot on the set, the first day, he had never directed a film. Yeah. The cameraman had never shot a frame of footage. Those kids, two of them didn't even know they were in a movie. The music, none of it was done. And so yes, I tip a hat to the advice, but I also just really genuflect before the effort to undertake something so massive and so controversial at the time, with no safety net, with no idea of whether or not it would work or whether or not it would even be seen. I remember exactly where I was, and I remember how I felt, I feel like it's the first movie I ever saw. I know that's not true. It's the first movie that I felt inside of me, that became a part of my bloodstream. I love this movie so much. I just want to get up and dance. I won't, though.
I'd take it. We'd allow it. We're ready. Do you? What do you think it was? Is it the music?
I think it was the brown people.
Yeah, man.
I think it was the brown people and the dancing, and it was just that whole Puerto Rican side. I was just in love with everyone on that side. I always look at it and think he always wanted to play this part, but no one gave it to him, so he created it for himself. And that's certainly true in this film, A Warm December. It's a romance, but it's international, which is something that is so rare for African Americans to see themselves in cinema abroad.
Yeah, almost the entire movie is set in London.
So rare. I mean, name another film where you're seeing contemporary images of people. This is a contemporary piece, not a period piece, where black people are living and breathing outside of the United States without some kind of heightened reality or superhero piece or action adventure. So it's important for me in that way to see those images. Yeah, I mean, you're watching Pacino. I just think, love Pacino, so many performances, but, people always will talk about Scarface, they'll talk about Godfather. We're talking about premiere performances, but for me, I always say, what about Dog Day?
Yeah, I agree.
You gotta look at this thing. It's peak Pacino.
Go back there, man! Get over there, will ya? He wants to kill me so bad, he can taste it.
I'm always gonna kill you.
Attica! Attica! Will ya? Attica!
George Stevens had a particular challenge here. Anybody making this movie would, in that everyone who watches it knows how it ends,
yeah.
Right? But in order to get there, we can't just show them sort of happily living in the annex without a care in the world. The whole point is they could be, their lives could come to an end at any moment, right? And yet we do know that it doesn't work out, yet you still have to find tension in other moments. Like, is this the moment? And then I just find it very impressive that storytellers like George Stevens could get us on the edge of our seat when the soldiers are in there looking, they've heard a noise. But how we manage to summon tension, how a director manages to summon tension when everybody knows the outcome.
Yeah, it's true. I'm dealing with that right now on a film that I'm making about the Central Park Five. Everyone knows what happened to them. They were found guilty of a crime they didn't commit, and they went to jail. They went to prison as boys. So how do I tell the story when everyone knows the ending? How do you tell the story of Selma when everybody knows the ending? I think the answer in George Stevens' work is the love is in the details.
Yeah.
And it's the way that you get there. It's the journey, not the destination. In these films, you know where you're going, and you just want to luxuriate, enjoy, deeply feel each step. And if you can really dig into each step and make each step fully formed and bring each step to life, then you're on a path to an ending, even if you know where you're going, that when you get there, you'll feel satisfied.
Yeah. I'm going to try very hard not to be hyperbolic, but I badly want to call this the best movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
I get it. I've said other movies are the best movie I've ever seen, so I need to rein that in.
Fantastic.
But I can't have a conversation about the 10 or 15 best movies, to me, without including Battle of Algiers. Why did you pick it?
Well, because I regard it in the same way. It's a masterpiece that's been so transformative for so many different kinds of filmmakers, from me, who's probably the polar opposite of someone like Chris Nolan, who references it in his work with his Dark Knight series, Soderbergh, Spike Lee, Mira Nair, so many of us who regard film as sacred and as instruments for change, for entertainment, for moving through time and space, regard this film as a masterstroke and as inspiration. Julie Dash matters to me very much, and this film matters to me. But Julie Dash, the first African-American woman ever to have a theatrical release in this town, only 28 years ago. Hollywood's been around for over 100 years. 28 years ago, the first African-American woman had a theatrical release. It's recent history. She did it with such grace and such dignity. This film was made against all odds. I love Marty. Marty was introduced to me by my sister Gina. Gina's a librarian and an archivist. And when we were young, I think in college, she told me about this film called Marty that she loved. A great love story. I'm thinking, God, what is this? I need to watch it at the movie theater. And she said she saw it on TCM. So she had seen it, I don't know, late one night and just continued to talk about how much she loved this film. And I watched it and I can tell why. It's such an intimate, simple love story in its purest form.
Ma, leave me alone. Ma, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I'm miserable enough as it is. All right, so I'll go to the Stardust Ballroom. I'll put on a blue suit and I'll go. And you know what I'm going to get for my trouble? Heartache. A big night of heartache.
I think it's really critical that our audience, every audience for this film, like give it that first 30 minutes, because it is slow, and Ackerman doesn't care whether you find it slow. And then, like, I don't know, at minute 32, you know, something around there, you just start caring about her, right? It just starts mattering to you what happens next in this woman's life as she goes from barren, sad hotel room alone to the next barren, sad hotel room alone.
I mean, that's what this filmmaker does so brilliantly, demands patience.
Yeah.
Demands patience. And shame on you if you can't sit there and give this character and this story the time. And I admire that.
Why is this a movie that everybody should know?
I mean, I think certainly its form, right, is to be able to, and I think I've shown it to a couple people now, and they'll say, yeah, it's 4 stories. But it's the first one.
Right, the first one, yeah, I know.
You know, so that, in that, but also I love, I mean, it's genius craftsmanship in terms of cinematography, editing. At times it feels like a silent movie, full of passages where it's just a beautiful dance of sound and light and picture with no words being spoken. You know, the way that Kurosawa is using camera, pointing the camera right into the sun to get that flare with no shame. It's not a mistake, it's on purpose. And what that does to kind of the ethereal nature of getting to the bottom of this mystery. It's a thing that we should be watching, we should be studying, and I'm glad we are. The fact that more of us don't know her name and don't know her work, don't regard her in the place in history that she occupies I think it's criminal. With such power, this is her directorial debut, and I watch it and I'm mesmerized by the way that she was using narrative tools and in a completely new way at that point. You know, she precedes the official start of the French New Wave by 3 years.
Yeah.
You look at, you know, the great auteurs in that film movement, and you can see very distinctly how they are borrowing and tipping a hat to her work, and yet she's often left out of that conversation.
I'm a few years older than you, but so to me, the White Shadow was seminally important.
It's so many of that cast went on to be directors. It's eerie.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, several of them went on to be directors. He actually is a producing director on a show that I'm doing right now with CBS. So I get to work with him every day, and his daughter, Christiana Hooks, is my post supervisor on almost everything that I do. So they're a movie-making family.
I have not looked it up. I somehow now think I'm wrong, but I'm praying that he played Thorpe on The White Shadow.
Now, if that's true,
Yeah, I think.
Google at home.
I think
And
I
if
got it.
is, give
I
your
think I
props.
got it.
Go to his Twitter and say props, Ben.
We're not going to look it up. If it's wrong, I apologize. But man,
That's right.
The White Shadow was a Carver High. Very.
Wow, good job.
Oh, no, I was serious.
We'll see.
I didn't like it when they lost their fake games. You know,
Very invested.
That was very. Joan Pringle is the assistant principal.
Wow.
The Ken Howard. No, White Shadow, very important part of my life.
Clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
So the fact that we're talking about the Third World Cinema Corporation on TCM is very exciting to me. Thank you, Ben. But the idea that people of color, people who are traditionally uncentered, can make their own work. We've talked about some films that have black people in them, but are not coming from black creators. And there's something very different. There's a texture. There's a touch to it that you can feel. And so the idea that this film is able to have people below the line who look like the characters in the film is pretty extraordinary. And we're finding it a lot more now. I do it across all of my films since the very first one I made. But my friends Ryan Coogler, Barry Jenkins, Dee Reese, Gina Prince Bythewood, all of us looking for ways to make sure that everyone's included.
When you're an activist, it's valuable to see the progress.
For sure, yeah, progress that's being made. And when you're in the midst of it and when you're kind of trying to exert your weight and whatever little bit you have to move this rock, you have to acknowledge that it's moved, however small, in order to just keep going. Yeah. So I feel that's the case, and there's a lot of people doing the work in the same way that Haile Garima and Charles Burnett and Julie Dash and Sidney Poitier and Diane Carroll and many of the people we spoke about have pushed that rock forward to make room for me. We just have to all continue to do it. The hope is that it's not only black and brown filmmakers doing it, that the industry overall, that filmmakers who are in the dominant culture also see the value in more kinds of people being there, that critics do, that Hollywood executives, studio executives do. It's going to take a group effort to really get the rock rolling, but until then, we'll just keep pushing as hard as we can.
Barbara Koppel takes a side here. This is not an impartial view of the mining strike, and here's what the company has to say, and here's what the miners have to say, and isn't that interesting? She says very clearly, the coal miners are being exploited, and you should be with them. Mm-hmm. That's okay, right?
Oh, absolutely. Documentarians are storytellers, not journalists. Some might call themselves a journalistic exploration.
There's some journalism in it.
Yes, but ultimately when you go into the editing room and you're making decisions about story, about music to story, about where to point the camera, about all of these things that go far beyond news, just pointing the camera at a scene or story or documenting something that's happening, the documentarians are making choices as filmmakers, as storytellers, as to where to direct your attention. And so there are some that take great pains to be more impartial on both sides. But in the case of this film and Barbara Koppel, she's very, there's no pretense in what she meant to say, what she wanted to share, and what she intended to show, and she did that. A spectacle. There's a bravery, a brashness to it. Startling, uncomfortable, deeply resonant. It's jaw-dropping. It's epic in nature. It can only be explained by the word genius.